to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour, where we dive into the world of wedding entrepreneurs. Learn how they got started, what advice they have for you, and everything in between. So grab a drink and take a seat as we interview amazing vendors with your hosts, Derek and Jade. Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. It's a podcast, but it's also happy hour.
What's up, vendors? Welcome back to another episode of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. My name is Derek with Derek Preciado Photography.
And I'm Jade with Jade Preciado Events.
Today, we're shaking things up with the brand new segment, The Vendors Vault, where we unlock the secrets of the wedding industry.
That's right, and we've got a real treat in store for you today as we delve into the world of wedding planning with some of California's finest. We're thrilled to announce our lineup of wedding planners: Sandcastle Celebrations, Mady Bell Events, Champagne Dreams, and Events LC. Together, we'll be diving deep into topics like whether wedding planners act as gatekeepers, the vital relationships between planners and vendors, how they curate their preferred vendor lists, and much more.
Trust us, this episode is going to be jam-packed with insider insights and juicy discussions you won't want to miss. So grab a drink, take a seat, and let's get to it.
Wedding Vendors Happy Hour.
What's up, amazing wedding planners? I just got to say thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of our show. This is the first segment called The Vendors Vault. So we're super excited to unlock and dive deep into the planners' brains when it comes to the wedding industry. But before we get started, we would like each and every one of you to just basically say who you are, what region you typically work in, and what's your favorite drink? And we'll start with Penelope.
Hi there. So I'm Penelope. My company's Events LC. We are a team of 10, but I am the lead planner and work primarily with most of our clients. We primarily work in Southern California, all throughout the Central Coast down to Ventura County, LA, and Orange County. And I believe the last question was my favorite drink. Are we talking non-alcoholic or cocktail?
Yeah, it could it could be anything.
I'll say I love a good mojito.
Nice. All right, Janet.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm super excited to see some faces I don't know. So hi, ladies. Hi, Derek.
Hey.
Thank you so much for including me in this conversation. My name is Janet Tacey. I have Sandcastle Celebrations. I work primarily on the Central Coast. We like to say that we work with everyone from hippies to hipsters and everyone in between. So, we just like to kind of do unusual and a little bit different, and we love bright colors. So that's kind of like we're searching for those clients that are looking for something a little bit unique for their wedding. And we have been sober curious for 2 years now. So I love a delicious mocktail, and I think all of us should, explore adding that to our drink menus at our events. So thank you for including me, guys.
Love
Thanks
it. I love it.
here.
Yeah. All right, Carly and Sarah.
Hello. So with that said, I'm Sarah. This is Carly. And we are co-owners of Champagne Dreams & Co., planning and design company. We are focused on SoCal area region. However, we like to say we go wherever love takes us. So if that's out of state, international, we'll be there. With all of that said, my favorite drink, definitely hands down, espresso martini.
She was going to steal my drink too. We love a good espresso martini.
Nice.
Coffee and alcohol. You can't win. I mean, you can only win.
You can only win.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Last and certainly not least, let's go, Mady.
Hi, I'm Mady Tanner. I am the owner of Mady Bell Events. We're a team of 4. I'm the lead planner and designer. And we're based in San Luis Obispo, California. We mainly do events all over SLO County. So from Paso Robles down to Arroyo Grande, everywhere in between, but we'll travel. And so my favorite drink, I mean, it's kind of basic, but I just love me a good glass of Pinot Noir.
Hey, you're speaking Jade's language right
That's
there.
my go-to.
Nice.
Can't go wrong.
We love it. Well, it was nice hearing everyone where you're from and what's your favorite drinks. So we want to get into the first question about industry gatekeeping. All right, let's get into it.
So we really want to chat about how wedding planners can essentially be the gatekeepers of the industry. And I never really looked at it this way until Derek brought up this topic. So I'm curious what you all think about this when you hear that term. What does it mean to you? Let's start with you, Janet.
So, I mean, it didn't used to be that way, but I'm glad it's that way now. In a sense, it really depends on the level of service I think you're working with your clients. And I think I can speak for all of us in that we feel that the most successful event is based on having the best team. So if gatekeeping is the sense of controlling the interaction that you have with your other vendors and your clients, then definitely we want to kind of make sure that we are creating that team that's cohesive and is the best fit for their style and budget. So that's my feeling on it.
Yeah, I like that. Let's take it. Let's see. Penelope.
Yeah. I don't really see it as gatekeeping either. We're the ones to make the connections. And so I look at it that way. I also look at all of these connections as relationship building, right? We're the ones to keep the relationships with our vendors as well as with our clients to making sure everything flows cohesively. So I'm right there with, just making sure that we're on one team and that we're there for the sole purpose of our client and making sure that the day runs as smoothly as possible. So I definitely don't see it as gatekeeping either, but it definitely is a new word that we're learning, in the industry for sure.
I love it. All right, Mady, what do you think about it?
Yeah, no, I agree with Janet and Penelope. But I will say that also, if multiple planners in a region have a bad experience with a vendor, then that does get around. So in that way, kind of, it can be gatekeeping-ish. And so if we stop putting people on our list, then that might mean, that company has to make a change. And so in that way, I think that a little bit, but also we're just there, like Penelope said, to create the best cohesive team for each individual client.
Huge. And we'll definitely get into more of that, what you were talking about, Mady. Okay, so Carla and Sarah.
In agreement with everyone. I don't think there's any gatekeeping. When I think of the word gatekeeping, I think of holding secrets or not sharing. Very few, you may come across planners or designers that don't share their sources. I'll say maybe that's a form, like your vendors that you're using, rental companies that you're using. However, in the sense of planning, the actual planning portion, no, I think it's all about, like everyone else has kind of said, it's about experience and sharing that experience, whether it's good or bad, but there's no secrets being held. Mm-hmm. So again, I back to the original question of, are we the gatekeepers? No, we're the knowledge holders of what is good and bad.
Yeah, I see it as people educate our clients, right? So we're providing them all the information that they never knew that they needed, right? All the you don't know what you know, you don't know what you don't know kind of information. And so we're just there to be their guides and help direct them in the right path. Because a smooth day for them is a smooth day for us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, straight facts. And since I'm like the only person here that's not a planner, I feel like I got the community on my shoulders. So I think the way we kind of see it is like, you guys hold the key to the gates of every wedding. You and the venue, you guys are like the best friends, and we're trying to become your best friends, and we want to know how we could be on your side to get in to those pearly gates and get into those amazing weddings that you guys all do. So I think that's what gatekeeping, when it comes to other vendors, we think of like, you guys hold the key to the gate and we're trying to be your best friend. I mean, firsthand, I see it when Jade and I go to networking events, like some new vendor will be like, hey, what do you guys do? And I'm like, hey, I'm a photographer. And they're like, oh, cool. And then Jade's like, hey, I'm a wedding planner. They're like, oh my God, hey, Jade, how are you doing? Here's my business card. You need a glass of wine? I'll go get it for you. I'm like, oh my God.
They just want to talk to me. It's fine.
Yeah. So I see a difference with the planners. I mean, you guys are like the cream of the crop. Everyone wants to be your best friend, and I don't blame them. You guys are amazing. Okay, so let's get into influence. So like, how much influence do wedding planners have in choosing vendors for a wedding? And can you give some examples of how the influence can affect the overall event? And we'll start with Carly and Sarah.
Yeah, I think that we do have a good amount of influence upon the vendor team and who the client ultimately works with. But we really just want to go out of our way to make it so that everyone is we're choosing the right vendors based upon the budget, the aesthetic, all the good things that go into it. So, we're not closed-minded in regards to like, we won't open up our circle to other vendors who could be great possibilities for our clients. And we're definitely open to learning about more. I mean, let's be honest, especially in Southern California, there are countless photographers, videographers, entertainment, all the things. And so you never know who may be the next up and coming, the next best thing for someone. And so we're always open to learning about new vendors and building those relationships. But we definitely can help guide them in certain directions and be the yes or the no card.
And to add to that, as an example of what you're asking, to give an example of that, like for, like when we're doing full service planning or design, especially within our company, especially for like designing, for example, depending again on the budget, the aesthetics, the availability, all that stuff. Well, if I have, two options, let's say for florists or for rental companies, my opinion, my experience, my influence, most likely 99% of the time is going to make the decision of the client. They're going to rely on that. They're going to rely on my knowledge, my expertise, my experience. So if I'm going up against someone that I know for 100% fact I've worked with, they have a great repertoire. They're amazing at everything. I've never had an issue. And then it's like, say someone that's maybe competitive priced, their work looks good on social media, but I've never worked with them. And it's kind of a wild card.
Oh, wow.
Most likely I'm going to suggest here's your options, but I would go with this person. And 99% of the time that client will most likely go with said selection or, suggested vendor. So yeah, I think planners have a huge influence in the decisions of their clients.
Yeah, I could go off I could give so many questions for that answer. That was insane. But for the sake of it, let's get some other stuff in it. So Penelope, what do you think?
Yeah, similar to the previous answer, we're the connectors, the matchmakers, right? Although we do have that set team, like was shared that we prefer to work with and we can have a heavy influence on it. We definitely want to take into consideration not only the needs for the day, but personality of our client and their values. We highly take into consideration their values. And that's where the consultations come in. Our first initial welcome meeting comes in to get to know the couple, the family, their culture, the overall, aesthetic, the vibe of the day. If we have a client that's big on sustainability, we're not just going to recommend, any Joe Schmo that doesn't take that into consideration. Even if it's a caterer that, we hold dear to our hearts and we know it's going to be a smooth day, we want to make sure that their values also align with them. So I totally agree. Influence on our clients, where they go to. That's why they're kind of bringing us on to their wedding day team. Their event team is to help make those final decisions. But yeah, there's a lot to take into consideration when it comes to making the final decisions for those vendors. We like to narrow it down to at least 3 to 5 per section that we're looking into. Otherwise, it can be a little overwhelming if we're like, hey, here's our spreadsheet. Take a look at these 30 vendors that we think we'll recommend. Of course, we like to highlight, we think this person will be best, or, this caterer is maybe a little bit more cost effective, but they value sustainability to the fullest, or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, we're a huge influence.
Man, this is exciting. This episode is obviously going to be like the holy grail. This is insane. I love those answers. All right, Mady, what you got?
Yeah, I agree with what everyone has said so far. And not afraid to try new vendors. If I have a client that's like, hey, I saw this person on Instagram, let's give them a go, but I'm going to ask around first. And so I'm not just going to blindly be like, yes, let's try this new caterer before asking my other planner friends, as Janet knows. And so, not afraid to try new people, but want to make sure that they're making the right choice. And so I ask my clients for my lower tiered package, my wedding management package, that if they're going to veer off of my recommended list, to please let me know before, and then I can help them do a little bit of digging.
I love it. I just love seeing how every planner here is like nodding in agreement when you guys give the answers. It's super cool.
You've done that.
Yeah. This is awesome.
I think we're all pretty much on the same page. I just, absolutely, I concur what everyone has said, but, ultimately our clients are trusting us, and it's a relationship based on trust. And at the end of the day, my company, we believe in extreme ownership, and we're completely responsible for everything. At the end of the day, if, the toasting flutes get lost, we got to find them. If their bouquet gets tossed because somebody didn't know where it was, we got to go find that bouquet or get another one made, all of those kind of things that we learn along the way. So it's sort of it's a really important relationship that we have. And it's sort of funny with all vendors because, and I think all of us can concur that every vendor thinks they're the most important, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. And I agree. I mean, it goes all the way down to who's washing the dishes, or who's in charge of scullery, because at the end of the night, if they haven't racked the glasses right, then we've got a world of hurt. So everybody is super important, but the amount of stress that we carry being responsible for every single vendor is the reason why we need to be able to trust those vendors at the end of the day, having our back. So
I love that, Janet. When it comes down to it, you guys are the best vendor. Big time. All right, Jade, what you got?
Do you feel that wedding planners help maintain certain standards within the industry? And if so, how? Start with you, Mady, this time.
Yeah, that is a great question. I definitely do believe so. And I think it's really important to have a community of wedding planners in your area that you can, you have a good relationship with. And I think in our area, specifically in San Luis Obispo, we are very blessed with that. We have a great community of wedding planners that I feel really kind of hold each other accountable. We hold each other up to a certain standard. And by doing that, I think that our wedding industry as a whole is held up to a very high standard here. And I really appreciate that. And and I believe that, the more you have great wedding planners, the better events you're going to have. And it just kind of trickles down the line.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, Carly and Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, I think planners are the first step in order to, enforce the standard, because we're the ones that are ensuring that every other vendor is, making sure that they're crossing their T's and dotting their I's, making sure that their services are exactly what's listed out in the contract. We're overseeing all of that. And if there's something that's not up to par, we're the first man in order to be like, hey, this needs to be done. So in essence, that's setting the standard or keeping the standard. So as long as you're a great planner, I think, yes, you will, keep that standard up, because that's part of our job. That's what we do to ensure that our clients have the best experience, the smoothest experience, the least stressful day possible. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, we need everyone that we're managing or, overseeing on the wedding day to do their job. And in order to do the job, we have to make sure that we understand what they're providing and then enforce that when it's not getting done.
And helping them sometimes. Let's be honest. Yes. Sometimes there have been days where we've been on wedding day and a certain vendor asked me 5 million questions about the timeline, into which my response is, hey, can we pull up the timeline together on your email so that we can take a look and go through it, instead of me giving them a 5-minute play-by-play of the entire day, right? Yeah. To kind of help them and help them in that we provide everyone the tools to be successful. It's just helpful when we're all on the same page. So we're there to help.
Love it. I love it. Janet?
Yeah, I mean, I think the original question, setting the standard, and I mean, Mady and I we're on the same page on this because we're, competitors, but also good, friends as well. And Jade also. And I mean, I am just in awe of the events and the level of events that are being produced in our local area. And it just is, I'm blown away, quite honestly. I mean, I've been doing it for 13 years and it just is so beautiful and amazing. So, we're just going up and it's great. So that's how I feel about it.
I love it. What about you, Penelope?
Yeah, I definitely agree that we are setting the standard, especially for those that are transitioning into a new role or going into an entrepreneurial route like us. We're kind of the ones that are mentoring those new planners that are coming in or new vendors that are coming in. They look to us to set the stage, to answer all the questions, and just to make sure that we have everything running, not only for event day, but moving forward for any other collaborative events that we're working on together. So it is very exciting to see how the wedding industry is changing, how the aesthetics are changing, how the accountability is changing as well, making sure that we're all holding each other accountable, even if we're, from San Luis Obispo or working all throughout Southern California, just kind of being there for one another. I don't really like the word, competition, because we're all kind of in the same role of supporting one another, supporting our vendors. There are so many people in Southern California and the Central Coast. We can't take all the events. Yeah. So being able to work together and just kind of support one another has been really nice in the Southern California community as a whole.
This is amazing. And my brain is trying to hold all these answers in and try to come up with something to respond with, but I love it. So I want to get into something that I feel like a lot of photographers and videographers might be wondering. So as we enter more and more into this social media era and everything's becoming about, popularity and followers. So with the popularity of social media and the industry, do you favor vendors with a higher follower count? Just out of curiosity.
Seeing a lot of head shakes.
Head shakes here.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I would say it really comes down to, referrals and what they've produced and relationships driven. I don't hold a lot of, I think all of us can agree that it's a little bit smoke and mirrors, social media, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what's behind the curtain. And some people can have just the most stunning whatever pictures and it's a hot mess. So I take it all with a grain of salt. That's how I feel about people having a lot of followers, or I wouldn't base any recommendations on that personally. But
yeah, I love that. I love what you said. It's like smoke and mirrors because you never know who's behind the curtain or how they truly are. That's amazing. What about you, Mady?
Yeah, I agree. Really kind of the first thing that came to my mind was it might be appealing to, be posted on someone's account that has a lot of followers, but like Janet said, wedding day might be a hot mess. Like that person might be a nightmare to work with. You don't know. So I would never just be like, oh, sweet, they have 1 million followers, let's go, because the wedding day, it might be a nightmare for everyone involved. You just really don't know. So referrals from other vendors, if I'm working with a new photographer or videographer, is really what I would base everything off of.
That's amazing. I like that. What about you, Penelope?
Yeah, I come from a public relations background, and so social media is a huge part of that. And I have my love-hate relationship with it for the reasons mentioned. Of course, most of the vendors that we've worked with, are a lot of mom and pop shops that are smaller. Most of the industry are small businesses, and so they don't have those millions of followers, but they have a great work ethic. Their quality of service is amazing. And so the only challenge I have with social media is that we have our new generation of couples that are getting engaged, newer generations, younger generations that are coming in. Where are they going to first? TikTok, Instagram, social media, right? And so for us as a vendor, I feel like content creation has been such a big new thing, not only with content creators coming in as new vendors, but for us as a business. Where do they go to first to look up our work? or to, kind of review what we've done or who we've worked with is social media. We've had some clients that come in and they're like only wanting to work with vendors that have the millions of followers. Yeah. And we're like, wait a second, let's look at what's behind the curtain first. They might post your, wedding and get published, but what is your wedding day going to really look like? Is it going to be absolutely stunning, just like it's photographed, or is it going to be complete chaos? And so it's definitely, for me anyway, a little bit of gray area. A lot of research comes into it. A lot of vetting, of the vendor before it comes into that as well. But yeah, so, like I said, I have my love-hate relationship with it because it's, as all of you may know, so time consuming to keep up with social media when you have a bunch of other things going on, but it's playing such a huge role in our clientele nowadays. So we'll see how social media goes.
Yeah, that was great. I definitely want to get into more about the client view when it comes to the followers. That was a good answer. What about you, Carly and Sarah?
Yeah, do I favor on high accounts, follower accounts? No. However, I understand the how important it is from the client's point of view, but actually what you said. From the client's point of view, yes, having a social presence, it's vital to our company. It's vital to our presence, the validity of, what we do, or at least that's how it's assumed. Now, as a professional, as the wedding planner, I do not put weight on that. Back to what Mady was saying. Yeah, it's awesome. If I'm, scored a vendor who has like 100,000 followers, I'm going to want to cross promote with them because they have 100,000 followers. Now, am I going to book them solely on that? Absolutely not. Because as everyone established, they could be hell to work with. Yeah. They maybe have all the followers and they have the aesthetic perfectly, on their page there. But if they don't have the work ethic, they don't have, the personality that it's going to take to work with the rest of the team, it's going to cause more heartache than anything, or headache. So no, I do not put weight on that. Yes, it's a cool factor. It's a perk, but that's about it. But at the same time, I understand how important it is to maintain a presence, but I don't put all the weight on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that, I don't know about you all, but as soon as the clients are telling me about certain vendors that they are looking at or have booked before or during our consultation call, I go to Instagram too, when they're telling me the different companies that they're working with, and I'm looking them up thinking, okay, who is this person? Who is this company? I've never worked with them. I'm not necessarily going to Google and typing in their business name. I'm going to Instagram and TikTok to try and find to see what that looks like, what their portfolio is. I have heard it said that Instagram and social media is our portfolio, whereas our website is our personality. So it's to kind of see the difference in how people interact. And, it's just one piece of the puzzle.
I like that. I never looked at it that way, as our Instagram is our portfolio and our website's our personality. That's pretty interesting. So if someone doesn't update their website, that means they're just dull and
outdated.
Yeah.
And you said too that TikTok shows a bit more personality generally than the Instagram does, whereas Instagram is more of the portfolio of their work, and TikTok, you'll see the personality of the people.
So yeah, my question to you, Carly, is, so how does that reflect to planners? Because Instagram, you're posting the photographer stuff and sometimes couples, but so how does that work for your work and compared to your website? I feel like your website for planners have more of them than Instagram in a way, to me.
The website has more of our couples?
No, more of your work, more of who you are, your company.
I think it's just different for different people. Everyone's website reflects something a little bit different. For example, we're really trying to attract a certain clientele. And so we want our Instagram or our portfolio to really catch those people who are looking for more detail oriented, more personality, a little bit more bold design. So that's kind of where you will see that more on the Instagram versus maybe our website shows a fuller array of the different wedding locations, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think for us, we use our website to introduce ourselves in one package. You get to learn all about us, where Instagram is on the daily updated. You get to see us on our weekends. You get to see the weddings that we're doing every day versus the website's a little slower paced.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's not a
Yeah, where social media is kind of keeps going. So people that are interested in you will tend to come back and check you out. And, the more that you're posting and the more that they're seeing, that tends to have a positive impact on, inquiry, sales, all that stuff. But yeah, I would say that's kind of how we use social media and our website.
Yeah, I love that. So I wanted to ask, so since you guys deal with clients pretty much firsthand before all of us, you and the venues, why do the clients like it with the vendors with the higher follower count?
I don't necessarily think that they like it. I think that that's what the algorithm is pushing. I think that I think when they're looking, for example, editorial photography is like the big thing with a lot of right. And so when we're looking for editorial styles, that is what it's pushing through the algorithm too. The wedding cakes that are 2 tiers that look like the 1990s, with the
vintage cakes,
with the vintage looking cakes that say just married across the top, right? It just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing. So once you look at it once, it's going to keep pushing that through.
And it'll essentially give you the accounts that have the highest engagement, AKA the highest following, or, whatever metric they're going off of and pushing. But I think, and to add to that, though, I also think it's generational. We have I forget who was saying, but we have a new generation of kids. Well, yeah, kids and getting engaged, but that have.
I hope they're adults
that have been raised on the internet. That have been raised. They don't even know what life is without Instagram. That's the new generation that we're coming into, right? Yeah. So I think for that generation, it's a norm. It's the norm to have a following. It's a norm to have a social presence. So instinctually, or maybe not instinctually, but more through conditioning, they're going to be attracted to accounts that have higher following, because in their head, it translates to validity.
Yeah. Right. Totally. I completely agree. Yeah. It does translate that way.
So
it's up to us as planners to decipher, hey, that's all smoke and mirrors. And then this is actually legit.
They do great work, but they're a hot mess.
Yeah. They look great, but they're a mess.
Really, really well said. Now, I want to circle back to something that we kind of all sprinkled in throughout our answers, and that's relationships with vendors, and such an important thing as planners. So just for all of those other vendors listening to this conversation, what do you believe are mutual benefits for both us wedding planners and vendors in maintaining a strong professional relationship? Let's start with Penelope.
Yeah. It's such a fun topic, the relationships with vendors, because not only are we the ones who are referring our clients to them, but also vice versa. They might get a client that books them first and say, hey, we actually do need a day of coordinator, or we do need some help with planning. Who do you recommend? And so it goes both ways. You want to make sure that we are helping them and, returning that favor. I think it's just keeping that relationship not only benefits all of us in the long run, but especially on the event day. If we've already established a connection, we've worked together before, maybe if we haven't, but we've talked a few times, maybe we've connected on a personal level, then it really helps for a smooth wedding day too. So relationships is kind of key all around, full circle on day of and before and after, because the event truly isn't over once the, time has concluded, because we're still wrapping up, tying up any loose ends, and continuing to keep the relationships. If anybody is posting on social media, we all have to tag everybody or give them credit for their work. If someone's putting, a submission in for publication, it's just a continuous relationship to keep maintaining throughout the entire time.
Dang, I love that. This is just mind blowing to me. So that's crazy how you point that out, that when the day is over, it doesn't end for the vendors. We're still keeping that relationship. So you got to be on your best, at least the photo, video, and everyone else has to be on their best behavior when you guys are around. That's crazy.
Following up 6 weeks later for our galleries.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yes.
What about you, Janet?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I had said before, I think the basis of it is trust and responsibility. And, the other component of it is I'm just thinking of certain vendors that I love working with, the photographer who I know it has such a fast turnaround time, Patrick Ng.
Yeah.
We all know, I don't know what he does or not does, but you'll get your
Like that
video or
night.
photos like that night. And it's the craziest thing. But we all know that, right?
Mhm.
Or, you know, the florist that is just so, it makes our job so much easier. So those relationships and maintaining those relationships are so vital and important. So yeah, that's the most important for sure.
Yeah. What about you, Mady?
Yeah, I've found a lot of success in just like clear communications from both ends. I think that has to be mutual, of course. So like even just almost over communicating. So especially for clients that have booked a package that's not full plan and design, where you're not necessarily the main point of contact throughout. And when you're doing the final reconciliation to make sure like, okay, the client told me that this vendor and then talked about this, but like making sure with the vendor and not assuming. And then on wedding day, as the planner, not being afraid to roll up your sleeves and, you know, scratch their back too, because then down the line, they're gonna be like, yeah, well, Mady did that for me. So here I see that she needs a little help in this area. Maybe I'll roll up my sleeves now and help her out. So that kind of thing, I've found a lot of success in that. And just like, if I see a vendor needs help, helping them, and then they'll return the favor later on. And yeah, like Janet said, just maintaining that trust. And yeah, I've found a lot of success in that and building relationships with vendors.
Yeah, that's pretty refreshing to hear that the planners are also willing to help out, or like you mentioned, scratch another vendor's back if they will scratch yours and help you out with the best quality of work. What about you, Sarah and Carly?
To add to agreements with everyone, and to add to that, I think one of my biggest thoughts on this is the fact that when you maintain strong relationships with other wedding industry people, it gives you the ability to create opportunities to come up that, whether it be like, hey, I want to do a styled shoot. Mm-hmm. Boom. Hey, I have a florist who's like, I love working with you. Let's do that. Or I'm in a bind. I had someone drop out. Oh, I know a photographer. Boom. Let's call them.
A band.
Or even working with certain vendors that will give discounts that we pass on to our clients. Mm-hmm. That's probably a huge one. That is a direct benefit from having a strong relationship, because they know my work ethic. They love working with me, or, you know, X, Y, and Z of why they want to keep that relationship or friender going.
Yeah. Even the knowledge that we pass back and forth. I mean, not even necessarily to other vendors, even vendors in our own category, right? Helping understand different nuances of venues, of different relationships, all of the good things that go into it, where no one can know everything about every venue. And so it's so helpful, I think, just to be able to like, hey, what does something like this look like casually, right? Where you don't have to be a formal email, like, I have this date and this client, right. and you know, where you just have a friend in the industry, florist, or we were just at a networking event at Monami in Orange County, and one of our good friends, Megan Autry, who's a stylist there, you know, we're like, hey, we have a list of questions. She's like, go ahead, drill away, you know. So we're like, what's your price point? What's this? You know, all who's
these
the ideal client, all the good stuff, so that we can help refer to the right.
But that's just one small example of like, you have that rapport with other wedding pros. So, you know, again, just more opportunity comes from that. You have a what's the word I'm looking for? You have a friend, and you can talk to a friend in there, and it doesn't have to be so informal. I mean, it's so formal. I don't know. I find that as a benefit, because it's just nice to be able to, like, you know, you have a question, reach out to someone, you know, without it being like a whole thing.
Yeah, this is crazy. I'm just like sitting back and listening, because this is so fascinating and amazing to have such brilliant planners on here talking their 2 cents. It's amazing. So I got to ask, so we know what vendors got to do to be on your guys' good gracious, but how do you guys build and maintain relationships with various vendors?
Networking.
Yeah, Carly and Sarah, you guys started off.
Networking. Yeah. Networking, meeting your friends for coffee, going out, just seeing people, getting your face out there. Networking. We really love our different networking groups that we're a part of. And I just can't speak enough to the fact that, like, just having frienders there, and it doesn't have to be, you know, I'm lucky enough to have a business partner. Not everyone does. And so just calling someone to say, hey, I just need an event. What do you think about X, Y, and Z? Or what would you do in this situation? How can you help? sometimes you would be surprised at the answers you get from people.
Penelope?
Yeah, I definitely agree. Networking is huge. But also just kind of helping each other out, offering that support, right? This year, it just came up recently. I've had some vendors saying, hey, I'm working on my website. What does pricing look like? Which we talked about before. Having that connection where the friendership, where you can have those kind of more personal questions that you're kind of afraid to ask others that you don't really know so well. But yeah, networking, also a fun thing that I like to do with vendors or new vendors that I meet is going to look at new venues. We both all need to take a look at the space. We need to look at logistics. Hey, let's all go together. Or there's a new hotel. Let's go meet for coffee. Just, kind of using that as a, we're not in an office. We don't have coworkers right next to us. So these are the great opportunities to have those conversations and build on those relationships.
I love that. We'll definitely get more into how vendors can approach planners when it comes to going out to coffee or whatnot, but we'll get to that later. Mady, what do you think?
Yeah, 100% networking. And then also something that came to mind was just being very consistent in my process. And just like, I want vendors to always know what they're going to get with me. I found that has been a great way to continue those relationships.
Interesting. What do they get from you?
A very detailed final reconciliation email with all of the questions that, I will need to answer for them specifically. And just a lot of communication from me and making sure that all of our, I's are dotted, T's are crossed.
What about you, Janet?
I think, one of the important things, and, obviously we're planners, so we're fun, right? But we want to bring the fun and we want to create that atmosphere with all of the vendors and all of our clients and all the guests. So just being super approachable, and being friendly and being outgoing and really welcoming. I am, because we always are meeting new people. We're finding these new people. And so as Mady said, if there's a new florist or there's a new caterer, kind of talking them up, introducing them to other planners, and also being collaborative. I think it's super important that, if I worked a venue, and it's, I had to put a tent in, and then another planner, she's going to have to do the same. She's going to call me. Right. And I want to put that out there that if you've got a question or I've worked somewhere and you're new there, come to me. I want to answer your questions. I want to be helpful. I want us all to be successful because that's just going to lift the entire industry.
I love that. I love hearing how all of you just want to be there to help out the vendors and meet new vendors. Cause I feel like everyone that isn't a planner, we kind of sit back and look at you guys as the cool kids. And we're just like, they don't need to approach me. I got to come to them first. I need to say hi. I need to do whatever. So it's very refreshing to hear how you guys
That's
are.
An interesting point of view on that.
You guys are literally the cool kids. We're just like, hey, how's it going? Can I be your friend, please? My God.
Well, speaking of new vendors, how do you all approach working with newer or, lesser known vendors? Are there specific criteria that you look for them to meet, for them to be considered to work with? We'll
start with Penelope.
Yeah. I don't really have a criteria. I want to be as collaborative as, with any other vendor. So I guess over communicating is huge. And I don't know if this is really similar to the vendors, but we do get a lot of family members that want to offer to provide a service and are being seen as a vendor, right? And so they might be new to the day as an event. It doesn't happen too much, but I always require a contract. There always has to be a contract in place. So we know what, the expectations are from both sides. And they're taking this job very seriously. So even if it's the friend's sister's cousin doing the DJ and he DJs at a restaurant, but now he's doing events, we need a contract. We need a contract. We need the COI. We want to make sure that our clients are going to be in good hands no matter who it is. And if that might be an awkward conversation for our client, then we take on that role in over communicating and making sure that they understand where we're coming from. Of course, in a friendly and open manner, because we want to be able to guide them as well so that they can succeed and we can succeed on event day. So it's just I think that's the only thing. But other than that, I love working with new vendors and just getting to know more about them, their services, and how we can work together as a team.
I love that. What about you, Janet?
New vendors. I think baseline for me, and Mady, we sort of are probably in agreement, but baseline is for me, a vendor is going to have a business license. They're going to have insurance. They're going to be professional, and then I'm very welcoming, but if you don't have sort of those basic baseline things, it's going to be harder for me to encourage you or have you be a part of my event. So, but new people coming in, again, going to those mixers, coming up and saying hi, chatting, getting to know everybody. And that's kind of the beauty of social media, right? Is we can identify those people.
True.
It can be creepy when people know who you are and you don't know them, and they like come up, "Hey, Janet, how are you doing?" And I'm like, "Wait a second, do I know you?" Yeah. But it's kind of fun too. So, I mean, I think having at least the minimum baseline reached, and then let's talk, let's meet each other. Let's, hash it out, talk about what you're excited about, what you want to do.
I love that. All right, Mady, let's hear it.
Yeah, 100%, Janet. Business license, insurance. I have a contract clause that I won't work with, like your sister's best friend or whatever, unless she is truly a vendor. And so like, I, make sure to educate my couples in that I can't be your DJ. I can't be, your busser. I can't do these other things because I'm in charge of so many other things that will make your wedding day go well. And so we need to make sure that we're hiring people that are going to fill these roles, because I can't fill that gap for them. And so long as, everyone's on the same page and that those gaps will be filled by the appropriate vendor, I'm all for it. And 100% love, working with new vendors and think that's wonderful. I mean, like we were all new vendors at one point. Yep. And so, giving those people a chance, and I think that's great.
Dang, I love it. Mady was just like, I don't work with your grandma. Bam, hard hitter right in there. I like that. Well, I want to get into that too. All right, Carly and Sarah, what's your thoughts on that? New vendors?
Yeah, I think it's yes, in agreement with everyone else. Definitely confirming that, it's a legit business. They have all the proper paperwork, insurance, and all that good stuff. A thing that I like to also do is, I go and scope out their website, their social media. I like scour the internet. Reviews, and then I'll go as far as going through their tags. And this is if I'm recommending a new. Not like a vendor coming to me. Like if I'm like, taking a 50-50 shot that I've never worked with somebody, but I'll try to go through like their Instagram tags and then see who they've worked with and who they've been tagged, venues, and then I'll see if there's anyone that I know in that social circle, and then be like, hey, like LaVenta Inn, I saw that you worked with this florist. How was that? Because I have the rapport with said venue that I can just hit them up and ask them that, So it's a little bit of social digging and confirming that it's a legit business. And just kind of, using my past experience and my eye, and I go with, how that feels.
People who have good communications, open communication with us, right? I'm not the first one to say this. When you go to somebody's website and the only way to contact them is through the contact page. Yeah. It's like, I just need a direct question that I need to ask you in regards to, vendor to vendor question. I just need an email address, a phone number, some way to reach you. That's not, I have to wait 7 to 10 business days for you to review all of your potential clients and realize that I am a vendor who we are trying to book your services. So just open communication.
So I think all of that kind of plays a role. It's not just one answer. I think it's a combination of all those little things. And then you kind of come up to your own conclusion of like, this would be a great contender. And then we'll go with that. But
All right. Holy crap. This right here for any new vendor, this is like your master plan. You just got every answer you could possibly want for the planners to be your best friend. Holy crap. That is insane. All right. So speaking of that, let's get into the planners. So more of you guys, what are the do's and don'ts when vendors you haven't worked with try to reach out to you and connect? Like what do you like and don't like? This is huge. This is for all I know vendors want to know, how can they be your friend? The do's and don'ts. Let's go with Mady.
Yeah. I mean, I like it when vendors reach out just via email, and it's like, just to say hi. No, they don't want anything. They just want to say hi. You know, and I think that's really nice. And I will meet up for coffee with vendors. I think it's fun, and it's nice to get out of my home office and go get a coffee somewhere and maybe make a friend. And so I think that's wonderful. I would say, don't hound me. You know, like if you reach out and I'm like, great, thank you so much for sending over your package information, like definitely we'll keep you in mind. That's that. Maybe I see your stuff and I don't have a client right then that's looking for, you know, your specific vendor area. So, you know, so it can be, it's just clogging up my inbox at that point. It's like, I'll send you to people when I need to. I just don't have anyone in that stage of planning right now. So yeah, that's what I would say. Definitely just don't hound people. But other than that, like, please do reach out though.
Dang, I love this question. This is like a heavy hot hitter topic. Dang, I love it. Janet, let's hear yours. I know you got some Mike Tyson punches in there.
We can only hope. So, I mean, agree totally with Mady. I think an email is great. You know, don't message me on Instagram, please. Don't send me your brochure through Instagram. I don't have time for that. And then I think if you do kind of, you know, go to the mixers, be social, put yourself out there, be friendly, talk to the people you don't know, make new friends in the industry. I think all of those things are super important. Those are my hot takes.
Yeah, that's crazy. So yeah, Instagram, and because like for some reason messages just get lost, they like, you guys don't get alerted or whatever, they just get stuck in freaking limbo. So that's cool. You guys want like us to approach you at mixers and stuff, which is like, I could speak for myself, it's like intimidating. You know, you guys are the cool kids. Coming up to you guys is scary. What about you, Penelope?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. An email, maybe a phone call is great to say hello, meet at a networking event, meet at a mixer, meet for coffee. That's definitely a do. Again, in my love-hate relationship with social media, definitely on board with do not DM and do not keep DMing. You know, if we say, great, you know, we don't have a client for your service at the moment, and then they continue to message weekly. Another big don't is for Instagram is don't keep tagging me in all of your brochures or your stories and things like that. I want to support as much as possible, but I've had that in the past where, you know, I'm tagged almost daily in a picture that I'm not in or not credit, you know, it wasn't my work, but they're doing an event at a, you know, a restaurant or whatever. And then they keep tagging and tagging and tagging. And that just kind of pushes me away from saying, hey, you know, I'm looking for the barbecue caterer or whatever it is, because it's like, you've done a little bit too much already. I think that's a don't for me.
Holy crap. So I didn't even know that was a thing. So vendors will tag you into random things just to get your attention. Whoa, that's gnarly. All right, Carly, Sarah.
I'd say don't ask to be on a preferred vendor list. It's one thing for you. It's a whole nother thing to be on a preferred vendor list if I haven't worked with you. I need to know what that experience is like.
And yeah, just to kind of add to that, but yeah, like if you've never worked with us or don't even know the same people, let's say, because that's happened, we'll get lots of emails. Please don't call, especially if we don't know each other. But sometimes even sending emails on Instagram, it can feel a little spammy if I don't know. We don't have the same mutual connections, I'll say. So first and foremost, specifically, like I know for a lot of planners, get yourself into a networking association. That is going to be the best in you can do a million times better than any email that you send, because that's where your personality will shine, even if you've never worked an event with somebody. But if you meet someone, and I've had this happen to me personally, never worked with somebody, they liked my personality and they gave me a chance at that point, and I was able to prove myself and then built that relationship. But kind of on that same token, like, get out there and network face to face if you can. And then once you meet face to face, then go ahead and send out those emails, then go ahead and make that phone call, because now I have a face to the name. I have a rapport with you. But going like blind cold calling, just don't do it.
Dang. Again, to the vendors that are listening, this is your blueprint. Holy crud.
I will add a little bit to that.
Nope.
If you are going to email regardless, my one bit of advice is make sure that you personalize that email. Go look through our work. Go say, hey, I saw that wedding you did out in Newport Beach, yada, yada, yada. It looks so pretty, like phenomenal. So something, not just a general copy and paste email that we can tell that's been copy and paste and emailed to several people.
Yeah. Again, this is the blueprint, people. Take notes. Holy crap. All right, Jade.
If a vendor wants to do a styled shoot with you, how would you want them to approach like their idea too? Let's start with Janet.
Styled shoots are a touchy subject. It's a hot topic right there, guys. Yeah, I mean, wow. Styled shoots. I mean, I do have people that approach me. I think a lot of times for me personally, I think we should start with the designer versus anyone else. If a florist were to come to me or a rental company, maybe, but I really think it kind of starts and stops with the designer themselves creating that. So that's kind of my thoughts on styled shoots.
Straight to the point.
Don't ask.
Oh, I'm just going to hide. Oh man, that's crazy. Mady, what's your thoughts?
I agree. I honestly don't really want to do them unless it's my vision, to be honest. At this point, maybe when we're newer, that's something, if we get approached to do a styled shoot, we're like, sweet. Yes. Like definitely need the content. But at this point, like, we're doing weddings that are beautiful and that we're using for content. So unless I have like a very specific vision, I'm like, yes, like need to have this in my portfolio. I'm like, I do kind of want to, like Janet said, be the one that approaches that. Having said that, maybe it's something that at a networking event, or if I'm getting coffee with a friender, and we're talking about it together and creating an idea together, that's, great. Like, let's do that and collaborate on it together. But just cold call, like, hey, do you want to design this for me? Like, give me, hours and hours of your time. Probably not.
Yeah. Again, dang, this is blueprints for the people. Holy crap. Penelope, what's your things on style shoots?
Yeah, I agree. If it's not kind of coming from our team or from us that we really want to approach a specific design or we need to upgrade our portfolio, we probably will say no. However, I hate to say it, I'm a yes person. So I love to be able to work with anyone. But the way that we approach it is, say we have a look that we really want to capture, right? We will reach out to vendors and say, hey, or the vendor that reached out to us, hey, let's collaborate. Well, where can we meet in the middle? What do you need to upload on your portfolio? Because that vendor is offering their time for free. We're offering our time for free. How can we both benefit each other, help each other out, create the content we need. If a rental company has new rental items and it matches our look, great, let's bring them in. But we have that open conversation like, okay, well, first we want to design it. We want to be the ones taking the lead. However, what are new things that you need to promote, or what content do you need? What do you need, and how can we meet in the middle is kind of how we approach it. But similar to Mady, we're not at the point where we need so many styled shoots because we have our weddings to kind of base off of. But yeah, that's kind of our look at it.
I love it. What about you guys, Carly and Sarah?
Yeah, I mean, in the same boat as everyone else, it's all about the timing. If it suits me as well, then obviously, yeah, I would be more interested in donating my time to do that. but it kind of comes with the questions that everyone else has stated. Is in my vision, what are the other vendors that are involved? Is the timing right kind of thing? At this point in our career, it would be very rare for someone that's completely green or completely new and just hit us up on an email and was like, hey, let's do a styled shoot, and be like, yeah, let's go for it. I'd need a little bit more, background to see who's involved. But if forgive me, but the original question was like for new people to do a styled shoot, like how they approach us.
Yeah, like how just like any photographer, any vendor just approaching you for a styled shoot with their design or their idea. How would you? And
yeah, it would just, it's kind of a combination of factors that would make me want to contribute to that. Especially if it wasn't, let's say, my design, if I wasn't the one trying to organize it. Now, if it's something that I want to organize and design, obviously I would kind of start from the beginning myself. But that one's a tough one because, for planners specifically, we're not donating a product, we're donating our time.
True.
So that's a whole different category than, let's say, florals or rentals or stationery, or same thing with photographers. You're donating your time. Like, yeah, you're developing digital film, but like, that's your time. It's a little different than just leaving. So it's a little bit more complicated, I think.
What are your thoughts, Carly?
I think that it's nice for them to reach out to us, but come to us with something, right? I have a photographer in mind. I have a venue in mind. Don't just want us to do all the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. So basically when it comes down to it, people or photographers, anyone, don't ask a high-end good planner that's already doing amazing work, because they're probably going to say no. Get the newbie planners, I guess. Ask for the ones up and coming. I heard a lot of photographers did start with like doing little style shoots with up and coming planners, and they both just grew and then went from there. So I guess that's the way of doing it. But you could take a chance and ask a planner. You never know what you'll get.
I just want to add that I my thought on styled shoots is it's super important to know what your audience is and what's your objective, what's your goal. Like, is there a specific publication that you want to have this in? Is this for content for your Instagram? Is this to go on your website? Does this match your brand? So finding the vendors that maybe share a vision in a similar aesthetic for you, maybe collaborating with them. So, but we get all asked, I'm sure, lots of times to participate in a styled shoot. And it always, for me, comes to, well, what's the objective? Mm-hmm. Like, what's your number one goal for this? Because it's so much time and energy.
Yeah,
And to add to all that, not to, beat a dead horse here, but networking. If you're completely new and you want to do a styled shoot, find yourself a networking association or group that you can go to and start getting your face out there. And then once you start people get to know you, as in your name, not even necessarily, and your company, of course, but like they get to know your personality. That's going to exponentially increase your chances of an established company wanting to work with you or being willing to work with you, especially in the sense of donating services and time. Mm-hmm. So definitely, again, get out there and network, because that's going to be the easiest, fastest, sure way to start building relationships that will open up the doors to something like styled shoots.
I love it. It's amazing answers. I want to get into something that for photographers when it comes to planners and the reception space. So I want to ask, what is your number one pet peeve when it comes to photographing the reception space? And let me see, I'm going to ask Mady.
Number one pet peeve, please let me know before you go and photograph it, because maybe we are repurposing some florals into there and it's not quite ready. But also I always have an employee follow the photographer around.
Oh, wow.
To judge, if you will. And so she'll, make sure, okay, this fork isn't straight. Hold on, before you take a picture of this place setting, like, let me make sure that it's straight in that way. Because there's nothing more frustrating than getting a gallery back and it's just not quite right. Like, it's beautiful, but it's just, you can't use it because it's not perfect. So let me know before you do it and I will send someone with you.
Oh my God. Yes. I hear it all the time from Jade, not from my work, but I hear it all the time. Okay. Let me hear Janet.
Well, I was just today with one of my assistants, and we were going through galleries, right? And it was funny and fun, but we're skipping through those family photos, guys. We're not looking at any of those. We're going straight to the details, right? And what do we have? We have maybe 5 of the wide shot, and we're like, oh my gosh, please, Lord, make one of those shots be the $1 million shots. And they're not always the $1 million shots. Okay. So I would say for us as planners, of course, we want the clients to have all of their family shot list and all of those pictures taken, but really getting the details and getting those in some unusual angles. It's so, because photographers are looking at they're not necessarily looking at what they're taking a picture of, right? They're focusing on, is it in focus? What's the light like? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing to us is later we'll be like, oh my gosh, there was a purse on that chair. And so to Maddie's point, I mean, we've gotten to the point where we're following the photographer around. As a planner, I love to yell at people. Like that gives me a lot of joy in my life. So like when we're doing that wide shot, I'm like, everybody get out, here's the purses, hold the purses, here to make this perfect. So it's getting those details, that's for us our bread and butter, because we want to showcase the beautiful designs that we've created.
Holy moly. I have so much to add to that, but I want to hear everyone's answers. Penelope, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Nothing irks me more than a crooked candle or a photograph of a candle that hasn't been lit, or crooked, flatware, whatever it might be. But one thing that we have seen in the past is some photographers will send us a separate vendor gallery. Our clients don't want to see, all the details, but we want to see all the details. So we've seen that. I know it's extra work, but it's definitely been helpful when the photographer sends a follow-up and say, hey, vendors, thanks for an amazing day. Here's a gallery, but this is specific to you. This way they can showcase their work, maybe get a little extra brownie points from those vendors, from the planners, from us, that we can keep referring them, because we know we're going to get those awesome, angles. We're going to get all the details. We're going to get all the shots. So something that, it's creating extra work for you, but definitely has been a favorite from us.
That's interesting. I love that answer. A whole separate gallery for just the vendors, not like a separate category in the gallery that they send to the couple, but a whole nother gallery.
Yeah, a whole nother gallery. I mean, it's not as many photos as, the main gallery, but mm-hmm. like, Janet said, we don't need to see grandma. We don't need to see, the bridal party. We saw everyone. Everyone looked fantastic. We want the details. And so the gallery might not be, hundreds of photos, but it's still enough for us to get that money shot.
I love it. What you guys think, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Curly?
I think that especially if you're a photographer who focuses more on outdoor photography and maybe indoor photography is not your specialty, make sure that you really have the proper lighting to be able to make the space look wonderful. It's really hard when we get some photographs back and maybe it's not lit properly, or they really didn't take the time in to pay attention to all the wonderful details that we spent so much time and attention on. So just making sure that if that is not necessarily your forte, that you are trying to work on it to make it look good. Because especially photographers who have never worked the venue before, mm-hmm. sure that they know what they're getting into when they come into a room that's maybe a historical building and is not as lit very well. And so it needs a little bit more lighting than we provide for ambiance purposes. But I really want to make sure that those photos come out great.
What do you think, Sarah?
Detail shots for me. Details. Get those in there. As was just mentioned, it is disheartening when you're like, especially when you have a big design. And I've had this unfortunately happen to me twice, where even with a shot list, where you're like, and that was from the client's want, not even from a planner's want, that they were so design heavy clients that they really, they spent thousands on thousands of dollars for these little details, and they don't even get to experience it fully on the day of because they're getting whisked with so many other things on the timeline. So when they go back to look at their photos and like you said, they only have 5 photos of their beautiful tablescape. So I think that's one thing I would love for photographers to keep in mind, is that detail shots are just as important as the family photos and all that other stuff. So
dang, I love this. And I think I have a little upper hand being married to a planner, Jade, over here. Because I remember when we first started out, man, she would crack the whip. And I was like, oh, I couldn't, I was trying to see what she was telling me. She was like, look at this fork. It's like way down the line. Yeah. She's like, look at these forks. Look at this.
What happened?
Yeah. Why are these these chairs? This one's out of place a little bit. I'm like, whoa, really?
If there's any photographers out there watching this, like if you're taking a photo and you see that fork off just a little bit, just, you don't have to do too much hands on there. Just, just your focal point.
Pick a different setting that doesn't have.
Or pick a different setting. Yeah, exactly.
So I wanted to ask too, so when is the right time for the photographer to ask you guys, hey, let me know when this is picture perfect? And to follow up with that, do you prefer that the lead shooter takes that instead of the second shooter?
I don't have a preference as far as lead and like an associate or second shooter. And like I said, 99% of the time, if I'm bringing in a photographer, I trust their work. I'm not micromanaging, I trust, that's why we're bringing you in. We trust your vision and your talent and so forth. So that doesn't matter to me.
We're over there generally holding off guests so that they don't get jackets
or making them leave.
Yeah. And
all over the island. So just come to us.
Generally, as I'm assuming a lot of planners do this, but for us specifically, we put in those, shot times like, hey, reception set time. These are photos. I'll even go as far as like send your second shooter if you need to. Like I put it on there and I'll do like a mini shot list, a very general one that I can just pop right on the timeline for a fast, quick glance. But yeah,
that's how you do it. What about you, Penelope?
Yeah, no, I agree. Communication, over communicating is huge, especially with these photos. Just letting us know that you're ready, so that we can be ready. I agree with everything else as well. And it's just, your timeline, making sure you're looking at the timeline, your associates are looking at the timeline, even if it's a second shooter that you have never worked with before or someone that's with you regularly. It's just being mindful of that. I like to have powwows also on the day of, because you just never know what's changing with the photographer or what's happening. Just over communicating so we can all be on the same page.
Love it. Janet, let's hear the whip.
My reputation precedes me. I think, I'm just reflecting on a couple of my past events that were just so fantastic and seamless. And, it's exactly what Penelope was just saying. It's being open and communicating and, checking in. And we have I'm sure all of us on our timeline says, photo ready for all the different areas. And then for them to come and go, hey, I know it's supposed to be photo ready. Is everything set up? Have you, is everything done? And you're like, yeah, let's go. Let's nail that. Let's get a lot of good detail shots on that reception. So, exactly as everyone said, it comes down to communication.
Awesome. So I love that. So even though it states on there, hey, it's ready at this time, you love it when the photographer will just get a double confirm from you and say, hey.
Absolutely. Because anything could have happened.
I love that. What about you, Mady?
Yeah, same here. I'll do a little powwow, like was said before, with my photography, videography team, and be like, maybe pre-ceremony or at the beginning of cocktail hour, I'll just be like, okay, here's our plan on our end. Maybe I'll be like, okay, like beginning of cocktail hour, we're lighting candles and we're moving some florals over to the sweetheart table. That's going to take us about 15 minutes and it'll be ready. It is in my timeline, but I think it's nice when they know what my plan and flow is as well. And then I will let them know, okay, I'm going to leave, this employee in the area. So she's going to keep an eye out for you and be there when you're ready. Just communicate.
That's really cool. So Mady, so with you have like one of your assistants assisting the photographer, from like family portraits up, or are they with them through the whole day? Or when you say you have him following the photographer?
No, not like that. I don't want to micromanage any photographer or any vendor. But for specifically those detail shots, I do want to make sure that everything is straight for whatever they're photographing. So that those detail shots can come out well, and the photographer can focus on their photography skills versus making sure that the place settings are perfect. That's our job.
Yeah, I love that. So say if I was like shooting one of your weddings and then you had your little assistant person do something and you're like, hey, this picture is crooked. I'm like, hey, I had your assistant. It wasn't my fault. She was helping me out. Oh, that's awesome. But no, that's really cool that you keep it just perfect for your photos. That's awesome. All right, guys, I want to get into the preferred vendor list. We're going to get into it. All right, guys. So I want to know, we'll start with Sarah and Carly. What are the most important criteria you consider overall when selecting vendors you include into your preferred list?
Definitely their professionalism, their work ethic, and their communication, and their level of like their style or, whatever that may be, whether it's photography, florals, items that they're offering rental wise. But definitely my top three, those, how we work together. How do you work under pressure? We all can be happy face and stuff and things are nice, but there are those times where things are on fire, not literally, but figuratively. And people are, push comes to shove. Sometimes personalities change. And sometimes that's like, oh, that creates more stress or more tension in the workspace that I don't want to deal with again. So I'm not going to put you on my preferred vendor list, no matter how pretty your florals are. That's an example. Not a true story. But I think definitely, and the communication follow up, like if I'm sending you an email with asking questions that are, vital information for my timeline and you don't respond to me for like 2-3 weeks, that's not going to work either. So again, it's just all about the workflow and how we work together with a little bit of personality and the professionalism. I think a combination of that is what for us, for that, will lead us putting a company onto our vendor list and suggesting it to our clients.
And I'm all about good energy. I know it sounds crazy. I'm all about good people, good energy. If we work together, it's not only a product or a service that you're providing me, it's you. So I want to have fun on wedding days. I want not only the bride and groom to have fun, but I want to have fun too. I love what I do. So I want it to be some good energy going between everyone that day.
That's amazing. So for the photographers and other vendors that are listening, you got to have their personality and be fun for the planners, but then you got to also have the work and, whatever else for the couple. So you got to be a jack of both trades.
We have to too.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah. All right, Penelope.
Yeah, I totally agree. Not only does, the lead or the business owner have to have all of these amazing traits, but also the team. Because we're working with their team also. It's a catering team, photography team, even the florist. We're not just interacting with one person all the time. So if the entire team has the great energy, great work ethic, great communication, then let's do it again. Because it's just going to make for a really fun and smooth day.
Love it. Janet.
Wow. I totally agree about the energy. It's super important, the energy that people bring. And I think professionalism and respect as well, right? If you're showing up and you've got your game face on, and we've all had like hard times I tell my employees this because I like to, have really young kids come and work with me. And I said, it's a show. People don't really need to know what's going on. You need to have your game face on. This is someone's one of their most important days. They don't get to do this again. So, whatever's going on personally, you need to put that aside and you need to show up and you need to kick ass. Full stop. And if you make my job harder, I'm not going to want to work with you again.
And there's that whip. All right, Mady.
Yeah. Amen to that, Janet. It's so many different pieces of the puzzle that have to fit together in order for a vendor to be someone that is going to go on that list. You've got to deliver your promised product. So whether you're a caterer, a florist, a photographer, first and foremost, that has to be on point. But along the way, how are you to work with? Are you making my life hell? If so, I don't care how pretty your flowers are, your pictures, or how good your food tastes. Like, no, I don't want to work with you. Like, I want to have a good, it's been said, but a good energy on the wedding day, because our couples can feel that too. And ultimately, we all need to be one cohesive team on the wedding day and work together. I like the analogy of of everyone, all the vendors are like a duck. You look like you're sitting on top of the water on top, but below you're like this.
Oh, yeah.
Like that's kind of how I tell my employees to like float through the wedding day, but really, like you are on a freaking mission and you're getting shit done.
I like that. I like the little duck thing, little feet just going for days. Yeah. So I just want to ask, so when it comes to, I hear you guys all saying they have to have a great personality. They got to be cool to you guys. They got to be, calm and collected. So do you prefer that more over than their quality of work? Or is it a little bit mix of both? Anyone could jump on that one.
I think it's a mix of both.
Absolutely.
I mean, it like kind of, if you have someone who has amazing work and their personality is crap, like definitely not going to work with them, but if I'm with someone that's maybe, all right, they can use a little improvement, but like, man, they have great work ethic. They have potential. I love working with them. The energy that they bring lightens up the day or whatever it may be. Like, yeah, those are contender traits that will ultimately sway a decision or an influence, if you will, of, what we're suggesting to clients and, bringing in to the wedding day.
And they don't have to be perfect, right? Like we're spitting out all of this information that makes it sound like the ideal perfect vendor.
Right.
We absolutely wish for this. Yes. But there are areas where we see, a possibility to improve, right? Learning about a different vendor's processes, right? How you have to go through these different processes to be able to get a hold of them, the different meetings that they have scheduled, whatever it is. And so we're open to, working on that within ourselves too, but there has to be a good relationship, a good give and take. And how do you make the clients feel at the end of the day? Because that's really important for us. It's not what you say, it's how you make people feel.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Again, this is a blueprint. We're coming down from how to be cool with the planner to how to get on their preferred list. This is insane. Oh my God.
When it comes to like receiving, like say after the wedding, we receive feedback from the client about a particular vendor, like maybe they noticed something was just kind of off or something happened. How does that client feedback influence your relationship with that vendor? And would you tell that vendor, like share the feedback with them? Let's start with
I'll 100% jump in.
Janet.
Yeah. I mean, there's some jokes around the Central Coast that you don't want to call from me on Sunday morning, right? Yeah. And I've made those calls, and it's because I do have a relationship with those vendors, and I care about that relationship, and I care about their business, and I want them to be successful. And they want to know, right? So if I'm in a relationship with a vendor and we've had a great event, but there's been some misses, and my client, I've noticed it, or my clients mentioned it, I'm going to call them. I'm going to let them know 100%, because I don't want it to happen again. And I want the best for them and for their business. So definitely.
I love it. Let's get it. Penelope.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love to give feedback. I like to get feedback as well. It's a great way to learn. We look at every situation as a learning process. So what are, the team and I, we always talk about what are 3 things we learned after every event. And so it's the same for vendors. We never know if we're going to work with them again. So you want them to know what your expectations were. You want them to know, hey, next time we can't be doing this. Having open communication. Here we go again with communication, because we want to make sure that they're going to scratch our back if we're scratching their back, but also we want to be the advocate for our client as well. So 100% Sunday calls are not fun. Nobody likes to make them, but they need to be done.
Yeah. What about you, Mady?
Yeah, 100%. I think there's definitely something to be said for holding each other accountable. So if I had a miss, I would want someone to tell me, and learn from that experience and that mistake. And so, reciprocating that is, typically appreciated. And if it's not, then that might tell you something as well.
Interesting. All right, Carly, Sarah.
I've always been taught to praise in public and criticize in private. So I think it's just important to make sure that, people know where we can be better at, and we praise everyone in public and, still be professional on the day of.
I like that.
Yeah. And, I think providing the constructive feedback, I'll say, if there's any discrepancies or, negative something. I think for us to share with said vendor kind of comes back to keeping the standard and enforcing that standard and, not letting it slide because like it was already stated, like if we don't correct that, so to speak, or at least mention it for that business to correct themselves, because that's their business. It's, their choice. However, for us, at least we're letting them, like, hey, this is our standard when working with us. And this is what happened. This is, how the client felt. So here's a little feedback that can improve your services or improve our working relationship, even moving into the future, especially if it was something bad. I don't know. But yeah, I think that kind of plays into that as well.
I love that. I love how you guys all are so forgiving in a way. They might make a mistake, but you're like, hey, I've heard this X, Y, and Z. You need to fix it up or, this is done.
At the end of the day, we're all human. Most of us are, a few people running the show. Maybe some planners are just themselves with a couple assistants, florists too, like stationers, like all these vendors. So the majority of these businesses are one-man shows. So it's like they're human. Of course, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to mess up. It's not end all be all. However, I think it's important to, have those discussions so that it doesn't become pattern and become part of the work ethic within that said business.
I love it. All right. So I got to ask, because I've been through this question a lot. So, and it's of course, it's the photographers. So I got to ask it for them. What do you guys like? What do you guys look for in a photographer for when you recommend it to a client? Like, what are you looking for in a photographer? We'll start with Penelope.
Yeah. One, social media presence. What's their online presence? What's their portfolio? Does it match the aesthetic of the day? Does it match the aesthetic of the client? That's kind of like the basis, I'm sure, for all of us, is starting there, because that's, the service we're booking them for is for photos, but also, again, communication, and their professionalism. What is their turnaround time when they're responding to our inquiry? Do they have that phone number or email that we can just reach out to? We don't need to submit this 30 question inquiry form on their website. Yeah. Just kind of little things like that. And I think that's kind of it.
What about you, Janet?
I think something, someone had touched on earlier is our clients don't know what they don't know. And so as far as photography goes, that's an art form. Photographers are artists, and not everybody loves Picasso or Van Gogh. So we need to educate our clients about the different photographers' portfolios. So we all probably do a pretty deep dive into photographer style. And that looks, again, at their website, that looks at their Instagram, what they're posting, and looking at full galleries too. That's super important when selecting the right photographer that's going to fit with your client's vision for the day, So yeah, super important.
That was a great answer, Jenna. I like that. No one, some people don't like Picasso. That's cool. What about you, Mady?
Yeah, I agree. And photographers are just so client specific that it's hard to, have just a cookie cutter list that you send out to everyone. And I tell my clients, you're going to spend more time with your photographer on the wedding day than any other vendor. It's really important that you not only like their work, of course, but that you get along with them and that you're comfortable with them. Because if you're comfortable with your photographer, your photos are going to turn out so well because you're not going to be thinking about the camera.
All right, Carly, what do you think?
I believe that these things are all important, as well as, let's be honest, the price point, packages and services that they offer. I wish that I'm sure we all wish that money was not a thing, but it is. So just making sure that it falls within, what our clients are really looking for, with the aesthetic, the budget, all the good stuff that, that have they worked the venue before, some great things.
Yeah. Sarah?
Yeah, no, I think photographers specifically, because like Janet has said, it is a true art in itself. And so it's kind of really subjective to the client, like what their price point is and their style of what they're looking for. But within that, if I have, let's say, 3 photographers that have the same style and budget, I'm going back to the professionalism, their communication style, and all those other things that we discussed earlier. But yeah, for photographers specifically, it really just ultimately depends on the client's budget and the style that they're trying to achieve with their photography.
I love it. All right, there you go, photographers. There's your answer. Take it or leave it. I want to ask this one thing too. Do you guys get offended when the client goes outside your preferred list? Anyone could jump on this.
No, I don't. I always kind of preface if I'm doing a vendor recommendation, like, hey, these are tried and true vendors. This is my experience with them. These are, whatever information I can give them. And I also let it be known, like, you don't have to use these vendors. Like, I'm letting it be known from the get-go. There is no hard feelings if we don't use, but these are who I suggest.
I like that. What about you, Penelope?
Yeah, same thing. I don't get offended. Again, we have to take into consideration the values of the client, their budget, and the personalities. If we all, are cohesive and they like that vendor, then great. But just bringing back the expectations for the day, making sure they have everything that's needed for the day to have a successful event, and communication. It's a huge one again. But yeah, I'm totally open to it. And at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for the client and what they prefer, because they're the ones spending the money. So
that's true. What about you, Janet?
I mean, I don't mind. I love meeting new vendors and, getting to know them. I think, earlier it was mentioned, we do cyber stock. We're like, who have they worked with? And, oh, hello, have you worked at that venue I work out all the time? Did they do a good job? So, I mean, I'm open to working with new people for sure. But I think having that preferred vendor list, or, I tell my clients they're verified vendors, a verified vendor list, because tried and true and consistently they deliver. And, working with these particular people, and I have a pretty extensive vendor list because I've worked for a while. But, I don't have a problem if we go off that list, but I really highly recommend that they use that list, because when I'm talking to my clients, we're pairing them with their style and budget. So, I have relationships with top tier, mid tier, and affordable in every category. And that's where that, vendor list comes from, and that preferred vendor list, knowing, because for us, it's so crazy with the budget, which I call the unsexy part of wedding planning, is like, how are we going to get these pieces to fit together? Because, if your priority is amazing photography, then maybe you're going to have some barbecue chicken, maybe we're not having filet mignon. So sometimes we have to go off that preferred vendor list only because of those budget constraints. So
I like that. So I never really took that in consideration, that you guys are also keeping in consideration of their budget when you guys have preferred lists. Your three categories. Hey, here's a top tier photographers and vendors. Here's the middle tier and so forth. Interesting. All right, Jade, what you got?
How do you ensure fairness in recommending vendors, especially if you have close relationships with some over others?
Hard hitter here. Let's see it, Penelope.
Yeah. Again, it's just what's best for the client, right? Their style, their budget, the overall look for the day. We have to look at it at a bigger picture. Maybe someone's besties with the photographer, but it's like their style doesn't match. I'm not going to pitch them to our client if, their budget doesn't match either. That's usually the big one, especially for our grooms, is, how much does it cost? So, we just looking at a bigger picture and just making sure it all fits well as a nice package to present to the client. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense.
Interesting. Sarah, Carly?
I mean, kind of back to just what was just said. I mean, when it comes to recommending vendors, I don't think fairness is even a thing to worry about, because it's all about the client. My job is to serve my client. Yes, having frienders and having those relationships with the vendors are great, but it's not my job to bring this particular business in. And if they get their feelings hurt over that sounds like a them problem, not a me problem, because my job is to make sure my clients are happy. And within that, I need to stay within their budget and within their style and make sure it's all cohesive and all that good stuff. But yeah, I don't think I ever worry about being fair as far as when it comes to recommendations, because it just depends on the client altogether.
Love it, Janet.
Hey, I'll work with anybody if they do a good job. Honestly, there's plenty of vendors whose personalities, I'm like, heck, I'm not going to coffee with them, but you can work at my wedding all you want because you guys kill it. Right. So, I mean, I got no problem with that. I love working with people that do amazing work, even if our personalities are different.
I love it. I find it really refreshing to hear that you guys are very open to it, to working with, whoever, and it ultimately comes down to the client. I think as other vendors, besides the planners, photographers, whatever, we get in our heads and we think, oh, why isn't that planner referring me? How come that planner doesn't want to talk to me? How come this and that, X, Y, Z? And it really comes down to, like you said, the client. And if you got the personality and cool, you're not hounding them and on IG. Oh my God. So the last couple questions here, I have to ask, as we get further and further year to year, as things get better and trend, how have trends in the wedding industry affected your relationship with, let's say, your preferred list of vendors? Do they stay outdated? Do you have to put new people on there that are up with the times? So let me see. Janet, I see you thinking there.
Well, I started when we had burlap and mason jars. So there, I've dated myself. And hay bale seating. Remember that? I was just looking at galleries today with my assistant, and I am absolutely blown away at just the level of photography that we're working with now, table settings, floral arrangements and ceremony backdrops. I'm just in awe. Like, this was a great day for me because I was looking at beautiful wedding pictures, which all of us love. My joke is, hey, I know you're here to get married. I'm here to get some good pictures. That's what I tell my clients.
There you go.
So, I spent the day looking at just absolutely stunning weddings, and it's a great day. Like, I think we all kind of get a little bit of a dopamine dump from looking at those beautiful weddings. So I love it.
What about you, Penelope?
Same, again, social media, love-hate relationship, that's where all the trends are coming from. Mm-hmm. It used to be Pinterest, where that's the first place a bride goes. Now I'm hearing TikTok is the first place a bride goes. Oh. And I get a love-hate relationship with TikTok because some of the things on there, I'm like, that is not realistic. That does not fit with our day, but great idea. And so it's educating our clients, letting them know what's realistic, what isn't, what's realistic on this TikTok maybe worked for this couple. I don't know if the planner loved it, but that's not going to really work for our day. And so it's all about educating, staying on trend. We have to keep up with our TikToks as well. Yeah. And also spending time to do our research just to make sure that we're keeping up with the trends. I still love a good Pinterest, but now we're looking at Instagram and TikTok a lot more because that's kind of our new clientele that's coming in. So yeah, just a lot of research.
What about you guys, Carly, Sarah?
I think that it's important to, stay on trend when it comes to our vendor team. I really honestly think about the photography is the big one for me. Entertainment is pretty good at keeping up. Florals are pretty good at, keeping updated, whereas photography, it's more of the style of photography that's changing. It used to be the light and airy was the really popular style. And again, now we're looking more at the editorial, cinematic kind of style of photography is really the vibe. So making sure that that's a part of what we're providing our couples so that it's also in our preferred vendor list and they know who to reach out to. Sure, we still have some great options with the bright and colorful, the bold, the true to color, and, the light and airy are still in that list, but we definitely know that it's on the forefront where people are looking at it. So we need to kind of push it up too.
Yeah. And I think too, like long lasting trends, like something that's more than a season, like if it, in a sense, like forces us to expand our vendor team vendors to accommodate said trends, especially if, let's say, because we're on the subject of photography. So if there's a photographer that has a specialization in editorial, and we don't have that on our vendor list, well, yeah, we're going to go search. Now we're going to be the opposite end, right? And we're going to be looking out for you guys who are the editorial. We're going to want to work together so that we can expand our networking to accommodate said trends, whatever that may be. But I think it kind of opens that door to do so. And
maybe they'll last for a long time. Yeah. Burlap and mason jars were around for a long time. So maybe the editorial photo is going to be here for a timeless kind of a long time. We'll see.
I love it. And to wrap things up, Jade, What you got?
If you could give one piece of advice to a new wedding planner out there from this episode, what would it be?
I'm just gonna do it. Networking.
Yeah.
I can't express this enough. You know, me personally, before we started Champagne Dreams and Co., you know, I came from planning my own wedding and fell in love with it. And that's how I got started, or at least introduced to the idea. And the number one thing that got me to where I am today was networking, applying for internships. I ended up landing an internship with Kevin Lee, celebrity planner, and that's where I really got my start. But all by just going out and networking and putting myself out there. Put yourself in an area that you want to be. So if you're just getting started in this industry, go find your local networking, your Facebook group that will lead to a networking group. And go out there and show your personality, shake some hands, get to know people around you. And that's how you're really going to get your foot in the door.
I would say be comfortable with the uncomfortable. It used to like being in a different situation that maybe you haven't done before, whether that's a new venue, a new price point with the client, a new vendor relationship. Just get used to change.
I love that. What about you, Penelope? What's your advice?
Yeah, definitely agree. Networking is a huge one, but also being flexible. I mean, for new planners, there's this beautiful image of being a wedding planner in the movies. And it's, you know, J-Lo, the wedding planner, is such a fun job. But, you know, once you're in there, the main thing you have to do is be flexible, be willing to accommodate, being personable, working with other, you know, you're working with so many personalities, not just clients, but family members, loved ones, and just assisting, being ambitious, you know, doing those internships, and just going at it full force. Yeah, definitely.
I love it. And Janet?
Well, I don't know, Jade, what did I tell you when we had coffee?
Oh, geez.
We had coffee.
Such a great conversation. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's super important to have a really thick skin because we need to be able to have everything roll off us, right? We are the buffer. We are the advocates. We're the lubricant for, and it's a very specific personality, right? That we all obviously have because we're doing well and we're successful, but you know, we need to be very kind, but also very firm. We need to have a strong personality, but not be overpowering. It's just this crazy kind of tightrope that we all walk dealing with one of the most important days of someone's life that they don't get to do again with their family who could either drive them nuts or they love dearly or both at the same exact time. So you know, I think a foundation in hospitality is really important. Understanding how each of the components of each vendor, you know, helping out a florist, helping out, go and work with a caterer, because all of those, as I said, every vendor is vital for the success, and understanding how their job works makes you better at your job. So, you know, if we're in charge and we're the umbrella and, you know, we need to be directing and this huge orchestra and we're the conductor, then we need to know how every component works. So educating ourselves with photography, understanding what those vendors need to be successful so that we can lift them up so our day is better. So that's my advice too.
That was huge. So for like the planners, new planners out there, you got to know every aspect of the wedding industry. That's huge. For photographers, we just sit back and take pictures. You guys are trying to learn everything.
The professional know-it-alls.
Professional know-it-alls.
That's a great way to put it.
That is crazy. Again, guys, this has been amazing. Your guys' knowledge and your success is truly remarkable. And I just want to end this podcast by having each and every one of you letting our audience know where they could find you. And we'll start with Janet.
So I'm Janet Tacey, and my company is Sandcastle Celebrations, and we like to encourage our clients to think sustainably when they celebrate. So we like to think every event is like a beautiful sandcastle that we've built at the beach.
Amazing. Penelope?
Yeah, so thank you again for having me. I'm Penelope LC with Events LC. and we're Events LC on all platforms. We have such a diverse clientele that we're very flexible and open to just creating the special day that's personal to you, making sure all the details are there and making sure that your day is just exactly what you pictured it, whether it be the traditional or the more modern. So yeah, that's us.
Awesome. And then Sarah and Carly.
So Sarah and Carly, we're Champagne Dreams & Co. We serve SoCal area and we specialize in timeless weddings with an elevated design. You can find us at champagnedreams.co as our website, or you can head on over to our Instagram. Check us out at champagnedreams.co.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for taking the time to be part of the show. We've had a blast.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
This episode has been eye-opening to say the least. We just got the inside scoop from the best source possible, from uncovering the blueprint behind our criteria for selecting vendors and so many do's and don'ts to keep in mind for future interaction with planners.
Right? From the importance of nurturing relationships with vendors to what goes into their preferred vendor list, it's been a whirlwind of wisdom and knowledge.
Yes, that's for sure. I'm just trying to retain all this information in my brain. It is amazing. And to all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to hear from some more amazing wedding professionals, whether you're tuning into our podcast or watching on YouTube. We appreciate your support. And remember, stay inspired and keep those wedding dreams alive. Till then, we'll catch you on season 2, episode 11.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour.